Look here.
Gentlemen. Let's give them a round of applause.
Good.
Jeff Garrick also taking gold class honours. Congratulations to him. We'll bring in the champagne. Bring in the gold class trophy as well, Jack. They got plenty of hardware for Bella Racing. Congratulations. And you're my hero. Wait, Nicole doesn't want to let go of that trophy.
So I can head back to my spot.
Saturday mornings aren't just for cartoons this time around. We get some racing here bright and early as we return for the Porsche Sprint Challenge North America Cayman Series. I'm going to get that one right. The drivers already heading out for their warm-up lap for race number 2 today here at Sebring International Raceway. I'm Joe Peak here with Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury to bring us the action on the track. We saw some interesting action to start it off, but once we did get it going, Joe, it was a great racing.
Yeah, yesterday was a phenomenal 35-minute race that we had, the first of our 2 Cayman races here this weekend at Sebring International Raceway. And let's take a look at the racetrack itself, located right here in Sebring, Florida. A couple of highlighted areas and one other one that we need to talk about. Turn number 5, which does not have a fancy glowing circle around it. We had our only full course yellow of the day right there at turn 5 yesterday. Turn 7, that hairpin turn, that's your best passing opportunity. And then I'm going to go all the way over to the other side of the track. Le Mans curve, turn number 16 has been low grip all weekend long. And then who can forget Sunset Bend, turn 17, when we're here talking at Sebring. Some of the biggest bumps in all of motorsports. The drivers have to hit that apex, get the line right, and crucially get that power down to race up to that start-finish line where we've seen so many close finishes throughout the years.
Indeed, it's been a place where the drivers certainly have their work cut out for them, no doubt. But let's go through our starting order. Jens Hansen going to be on the pole once again. Lonnie Unser starting alongside him. She was hard charging last time. Can she do it again? Anna Cecchi starting from P3 has Alan Scalzo in 4th. Erica Hoffman in P5 today, followed by Dan Ammon starting in 6th. Bill Fennick in 7th, and Cody Knight in 8th. 9th goes to Tom Kopczynski with Bill Pelichowski. Well, he was supposed to be lining up in the top 10, but unfortunately he does not have a spare car for today, so he is out for the weekend. Joe Rizzo starting 11th, and Greg Cecchi in 12th. Then Brent Osplund will be starting in 13th, Daniel Schaefer 14th, and Thomas Kerr 15th. Gary Buffkin, P16 for him. Inside of the next row will be Spencer Proper in 17th, Thomas Bigney in 18th, Charles Craig 19th, Paul Bonderson 20th, and Reggie Tartaglione will round out our 21 cars here today. Joey, already heading around to the Ullman Straight. We're getting going right away.
I think when we kind of draw back on yesterday and the performance, I'm really looking forward to these top 2 cars, and that's Hansen and Lonnie Unser. I mean, they set the track on fire yesterday in terms of their pace. We're really able to kind of gap it out over the rest of the field, and it was honestly that number 4 car that was probably the fastest car at the end of the race. Jens Hansen was really struggling, and then it just kind of the heat inside the car, as mentioned on the podium, we're really getting to him, but today is a new day. It's the morning. It's fresh, clean air. He's obviously got a good, clean head and hydrated. He's ready to go as well.
Yeah, should be at least slightly cooler for him, but clearly Lonnie knows that if she can keep within range, she can add that pressure on late in the race. So what's it going to look like once we get there as the field heads around Sunset Bend? The Porsche pace car is going to leave them be. Hansen will have control. Last time, it was a hard attack into the first few corners from Lonnie Unser. What she learned from it last time, what has Jens learned as the green flag is out and we head down into turn 1. The field of Caymans all charging into the braking zone as they head up to this fast left-hander off the exit as we wait for them to come through into this first turn. There is the field now, and it looks like Lonnie not able to stay side by side this time. In behind, we've got Hoffman able to hold on to that third over Scalzo. He managed to sneak into that third last time around.
Yeah, and I think I saw Anna Checki also still inside the top 5 up there, so she had a great start and a little bit of a different strategy from Unser going into that turn 3 complex, was trying to show the nose, while yesterday she was kind of stuck on the outside, but one thing has remained the same, Hansen trying to streak away out front.
Yeah, apologies, that is Checki there in third, not Hoffman, ahead of Scalzo as they head around the turn 7 hairpin and off towards the Cunningham corner. It does look like Scalzo's got a bit of a run here. Now remember, Scalzo's racing in the Masters class. We have the Masters and the Pro-Ams, and he is not racing Anna for points, but if he could get himself even more of a buffer down to Bill Fennick, he will probably appreciate that. And Bill's probably on a mission today. He finished in second on the road, but got demoted with a post-race penalty down to third, and he seemed to not appreciate that post-race yesterday.
You know what? It happens. Sometimes you got to go visit the stewards in that trailer, and sometimes they have good news. Sometimes they have news that you don't quite agree with, but all in all, we're out here racing. It's a brand new day. The sun still comes up tomorrow, and that's what we're here for. Another great Cayman GT4 race.
And Scalzo has managed to get by, so he's now up into that third position over Checki. As they head down the Ullman straight. Top 2, once again, this is looking very familiar to yesterday. Hansen and Unser already 2.5 seconds up the road. Look at that gap on the screen.
That's what I remember from yesterday, is just the performance from those two drivers was just head and shoulders above everybody else. I know that going through the drivers, everybody's still trying to get through round number 1 and 2, the first weekend of the year to start 2025. And here we are to complete lap number 1 of race 2. Tires still getting up to temperature.
But looking nice and clean. I think drivers kind of worked out a lot of the bugs yesterday. So we go racing for a full lap this time before we get the yellow coming out of turn 1 once again. And Scalzo actually starts to run away a little bit from Checki. She now looks to be under threat from Erica Hoffman, along with Bill Fennick close behind.
Sometimes it can take a little while for the car to come in, and I think that Anna Checki is just kind of ramping things up. That last lap time of 2:15.4, just a couple seconds off of what she's capable of. We know that from qualifying time, so we'll see how the performance progresses through the next, call it 30 minutes.
Ooh, got a little bit of a move from Dan Ammon up the inside, down into the hairpin. Nothing doing, though. A little bit wide there at the apex, Bill, making sure to give some space just in case Dan winds up there before him. That is Tom Kopczynski as well in behind. Tom, honestly, making big leaps and bounds this season, currently running in the top 5 in class, but not on the podium like he was yesterday.
And those two cars that we saw down there in turn number 7 trying to make that move, remember, they came together yesterday in that Cayman race number 1. So I'm sure that those drivers remember both of those incidents yesterday and probably want to beat the other.
Yeah, unfortunately, we did find out that Dan Ammon had a tire cut down by contact between the two of them. So he had to pull off to the side of the track and was essentially done for the day from there. As we watch from the Yokohama blimp up above, down into Jean Dambien. Very fast set of corners coming up to Le Mans.
It's so crucial to roll the speed through this turn number 16, but even more important to get on the gas before your competitor. And yeah, here we go. I think that this is Fennick all over the back of what is Hoffman right now. That's going to be the challenge for what is 5th place overall, albeit different classes.
Exactly. And coming up into the corner, close as they get, no change for position for the time being. You get a second bite at the apple, though, Joey, coming down into turn 1.
See what they can kind of do here down this front straightaway. It looks like Hoffman is kind of evenly away from Fennick there, but Kopczynski is actually closed in that gap to the back of that number 91 car. That's Dan Ammon leading the way there, and I think I saw a little bit further back, a little bit of side-by-side going into turn number 1. Just got to make sure you come out the other side single file usually.
I think that was Schaefer and Rizzo. And in the background, you could see that battle looks to be carrying on. Hopefully we'll get to turn our attention over to there. And those two certainly have been putting on a show here early in the stages of this race. They'll head down through Big Bend under the Mission Bridge and towards the hairpin once again.
Anna Checki has definitely picked up the pace from that early opening lap. That lap number 2 was about 2.5 seconds faster, and there's a close moment between Ammon and Fennick there. It seems like Dan Ammon very confident on the brake pedal. He didn't slide wide there in turn number 7, but definitely got right up against that gearbox of Fennick right in front of him.
We need a bell to ring. It is time for this grudge match to carry on for round 2 between the pair of them. They seem to find each other a lot this weekend. We're going to ride on board with Kopczynski, who has a front row seat to the fun.
Sometimes this is the best seat, right? Is that if you got an intense battle right in front of you, let's just see kind of what happens. Sometimes all the food falls off at the dinner table, and guess what? You're there to pick up all the scraps.
A good friend of mine up in the booth, Bill Zahn, used to always call this the popcorn position. This is when you want to get that popcorn out, enjoy the show, and then, of course, maybe you get to pick up a few spots if you manage to sneak by. He's staying right close to him, so he's doing what he needs to do.
I think there's been a little bit of kind of accordion effect in, call it this 4-car battle, right? Sometimes the lead between Hoffman and Fennick closes up, and then sometimes it's Ammon attacking Fennick, and then about a lap ago, it was actually this car that we're riding on board with, Kopczynski, that was really kind of putting the pressure on Ammon. So remember qualifying just yesterday, the times inside the top 10, specifically that 5th through 10th place, was incredibly stacked on top of each other.
And I loved seeing the different lines of the cars lining up Sunset Bend here, some going wide on their way in, some a little bit more shallow. I've heard it described as the turn of 1,000 lines, and that really illustrates it there.
Looks like the 24 car as well as the 3 car coming down the front straightaway. I think that's Cody Knight in that 3, dipping down to the inside, trying to make a move a little bit further back as this battle for what is, call it, 5th place overall. It does have a couple different classes between the Pro-Am and the Masters drivers in there, but this is definitely the sharp end of the field.
Yeah, Knight back into the top 5, which is where he wound up. I think he was a little farther down than that, at the end of the last race. But Knight was most notable for the fact that he was sent to the back of the field at the start of the race, climbed all the way up, past a ton of cars, and showed there is amazing pace in that car. But 5th in class for Cody Knight. Can he do better now that he's at least got a little bit more of a chance to race where he belongs?
Something that just jumped out at me on timing and scoring is that if we draw back yesterday, it was really Hansen that dominated the first half of the race, right? He just had incredible performance, was able to run away maybe 3.5 seconds, almost 4 seconds up the road from Unser, but already Lonnie is on it. She just set the fastest lap of the race at a 2:09.4. That's a good quarter of a second, almost a half a second faster than our leader, so maybe that ebb and flow already starting today.
Could be, yeah. And I said in the intro, if she can stay closer, maybe she could put more pressure on at the end of the race and get a crack out of Jens Hansen. He withheld it yesterday, but that's not a guarantee for today. We don't know him well enough what kind of driver he is under immense pressure, as once again we see some action back here between Kopczynski and Ammon. And as they fly off of Le Mans Corner down towards the Ullman Straight, looks like Kopczynski has a pretty good run on Dan.
He's probably the closest of the bunch. I think the one difference that I see is maybe Anna Checki had a little bit of a mistake here somewhere this lap, because Hoffman is now all over that back spoiler, and Anna was doing such a good job to kind of start to grow that gap, and here we go. Hoffman has actually closed it in on Checki. She's got a nice run on the front straightaway.
She says she tends to lack race experience here. There's going to be a look to the inside. Will Hoffman be able to take this one away? This is for the podium position as they come down into the first turn. She's going to stay ahead, but she's on the outside of the corner. A little bit shallow and a little timid off the turn for Hoffman. This offers a chance for Bill Fennick. Nothing doing down into turn 3. They'll stay in their order, but things are starting to kick up a notch.
It's always kind of that racecraft shuffle that if the car, call it second in line, doesn't get the job done, it actually makes them vulnerable to that third car in line. And then if that third car doesn't get the job done, well, guess what? That fourth car is chomping at the bit. And we even have a fifth car lined up here. So this is a tremendous battle. A little bit nice and even here through turn number 7. An early apex line there from Anichecki, probably just kind of trying to dissuade anybody from shoving it up the inside there.
And I love seeing what Porsche is doing with this female drivers program. We've got 2 fighting for the podium here in race 1 of the season. So they've been doing a fantastic job bringing out lots of into this sport. But as we've got, we've got 2 on the podium and a third fighting for the podium as well. So it's even more than I had illustrated. And Joey, Anichecki, she said that she needs to work on that racecraft, but what does she need to do? Maybe we need to talk about that later. Hoffman's got to run.
That was a terrific drive through turn 13, tower turn, and you're right, Hoffman is just all over the back of Cecchi right now in that light blue car. I think if I was just to try to analyze what's going on, Anna might be driving just a little bit defensive, and that's actually slowing the pace up a little bit. Sometimes as a racing driver, you got to focus forward and tune out everything in the rearview mirror. As long as you can hit your marks and know your performance window, you can go out there and nail the
Unser still staying at about 9/10 of a second. That's definitely closer than yesterday. And the car looks pretty good here through turn 1, so it seems like she is taking care of things.
Crucially, Hansen answered that fast lap last time from Lonnie Unser. This time from our leader, a 209.9, was able to stretch it out maybe a quarter of a second. And I think yesterday, when I kind of look at the grand scheme of it, it was always that seesaw battle between the sectors, too. I thought that the number 4 car here is maybe a little bit lacking in Sector 1, but she was really able to close it up in Sector 2 and Sector 3 of this race. But remember, all of these drivers, after every session, they go back to the trailer, they talk with the coaches, they review the data, they review all of that video. So this is a completely new day. They came here with a new weapon to go out there and do battle with.
Lonnie's looking for that first win in her Porsche Sprint Challenge career. She's very close to it. Came within about a second yesterday of trying to take that away from Jens Hansen as they work their way through Collier down into Tower. She remains close, in fact, closer, as we had a car off. Is that Kopczynski? I was trying to make out who that was there.
Not sure exactly who that was. I'm sure it'll pop up on timing and scoring here soon enough, but I think that was down at what was turn number 10, maybe just missed the apex a little bit, was able to kind of straight line it through the grass and then rejoin on the racetrack. So no harm, no foul.
Yeah, thankfully we're going to stay green. Lonnie, man, she looks really close from that angle as well. In fact, the timing says it's down to less than half a second now. She is starting to gain. We're not even to the second half of the race where we were expecting her to maybe start to climb forward, and already she's making inroads.
It's been a pretty warm weekend in terms of end of February, beginning of March here at Sebring, and yesterday was actually a little bit warmer for this Cayman race because, guess what, it was in the afternoon. We're here nice early in the morning. An 9:30 a.m. start time out here, so a little bit cooler in terms of the track temperature, ambient air temperature, which I'm sure Hansen is loving, but it might also difference in terms of the performance of the car, and right now Unser's car is on it.
Okay, so let's put you in the shoes of Jens now. He said, he struggled a little bit with the heat and dealing with the fatigue at the end of the race. I mean, you're in the car, so you can't exactly stop and exercise to get yourself prepared for this. What does he do now that he's in this position?
Most of these drivers are going to be running a cool shirt system or at least a drink bottle system. So sure that your cool shirt is turned on, right? That's going to be regulating your body temperature. It's essentially just a t-shirt that has water flowing through, whether it's a bladder system or whether it's just a trackway system. So make sure that cool shirt is on so that way your internal body temperature can start to cool down. Remember, if you start to overheat, your brain doesn't work properly. And then the other thing, that drink bottle. If you got a drink bottle in the car, make sure you are intaking fluids. That's what you need to stay sharp.
Always hydrate, especially as the temperatures do begin to get warmer here in the springtime, or at least the almost springtime down in Florida. Coming through tower turn once again, staying about that half-second back. Lonnie Unser just positions herself and stays in the mirror of Jens Hansen. This is the battle for a lead, and I do want to highlight how fast they've been going. 10.7 seconds ahead of Scalzo, who's our leader in Masters right now.
It's pretty impressive. And, I mean, we've only done 6 laps. We're coming around to complete, lap number 6, going to lap number 7 here. So, I mean, put that into layman's terms, that's over 1 second per lap that they're gaining on the rest of the field. It's incredible. Hansen and Unser are definitely the class of this Cayman GT4 field.
So we're hearing that it was Tom Kerr that had that off a little bit earlier in the number 74. So, like you said, no harm, no foul. Now, we did get a little bit of a peek down into Le Mans Corner this time through from Lonnie. So she's starting to poke and prod. She's seeing what she can do here.
And I think going through 17 there was a little bit more shallow, just trying to get the clean air to the front end of this car. And here you see actually defensive from Hansen going into turn number 1. I didn't think that, she was that close in order to kind of mandate that defensive line, but evidently Hansen is already feeling the pressure. And once again, right in the middle of the racetrack here in the turn 3 brake zone, that's only going to compromise the exit and bring her even closer.
So she's starting to force Hansen off the ideal racing line a little bit. He's feeling the pressure down to a quarter of a second now behind that dark number 12 coming into the braking of turn 7. She's not going to be able to make it this time. You could see the Be Your Own Hero livery on the side of her car. That's actually a pretty cool program that they're introducing at Kelly Moss. They're bringing in middle school children to try and learn about racing, specifically a lot of middle school girls that are going to be taught about all different aspects, not just about becoming a race driver, but they're teaching them about the engineering aspect, about how to manage the team. So all kinds of cool stuff that it's involved in the racing world.
I think that's really neat. There's a lot more in racing than just being a driver. There's so many jobs available, and all you need to do is get people to the racetrack, especially the younger generation, show them what's out there. And look at this. The pressure from her is starting to really creep up. Less than half a car length between the two.
Oh, we're going to see another move from her. Another defense. This time it is Jean Debienne, which usually you don't see passes in. So Hansen is really on the back foot. Does she have him on the ropes enough that she could actually manage to get a side-by-side moment in?
And once again, going into turn 16, he was more in the middle of the racetrack. Lonnie Unser was a full, call it 3/4 of a car width more to the outside to really open the radius on that turn-in entry, and that just helps you on the back half of the corner. And once again, showing the nose going down into turn number 17. Sometimes that's all you need to do to throw that driver in front of you off of their game, is just kind of do something a little bit different, present the car, take their eyes off of their brake marker.
And, normally if it was like yesterday where it's towards the end of the race, I'd say, well, Jens just needs to last until the end. He can gut through this. We've got 17 minutes plus a lap. He's going to have a long time if she stays this close the entire way.
You're right. We'll call it roughly halfway right now. And, yeah, she is definitely putting the pressure on far more than what she did yesterday. It's just a matter of if Jens can hang on to it out front. We obviously know that he's got the pace, he's got the performance, especially in the car and within himself. I mean, he stood on top of the podium yesterday. He certainly can repeat it today, but it's going to be a big challenge.
I like what we're seeing. If this is what we've got in store for the season in the Caymans, these two top-tier drivers so close on pace and challenging each other for victories at each track. Jens doing what he can to try to gut through it at this stage, but he's so closely followed by Lonnie Unser. We can see that here as we hop on the onboard. Let's watch her inputs.
Oh, and defensive again, and great brake pressure out of Unser there, and then you see nice and just kind of gradual onto that throttle, but once she's at 100%, she is pretty much matted to the floor there to accelerate up towards what is tower turn here, turn 13, and once again, defensive on that corner entry from Hansen. He seems to have it down pretty nicely here, that even though he compromises his entry, he's able to kind of get on the throttle still when he needs to.
I just noticed that Tom Kopczynski is in the pit and moving down the order, so something must have happened. Another move, this time much, much closer from Unser. What's going to happen down the Ulman Straight? Can she set it up here?
It's all about just sitting in the slipstream, right? You just use the draft, let them punch the hole in the air, and you can just kind of slowly creep up down this Ullman straightaway here, maybe get close enough. I don't think it's quite close enough. I'm seeing about 1, maybe 2 car lengths between the two as they enter turn 17 brake zone. And once again, Hansen right in the middle of the road. But Lonnie's really been tucking it to the inside here on the back half of the corner. She does the same thing again, putting the power down, and actually has a nice run.
This might be the closest she's been for some time, coming down into turn 1. They're not known for their slipstreaming, so the Caymans won't suck her up to him that close, but she does get him to go off the line. Can she pull the over-under? Can Hansen hold on to this desperately, doing all he can here off the corner? He is going to stay ahead, but every single turn practically now, he is covering the inside.
Crucially, though, is she realized she was kind of following him to the inside of the racetrack there in turn number 3. And when you're putting the pressure on, obviously that driver in front is going to feel it, right? So they're going to move more into a defensive position. But when you are attacking, you don't want to follow them over. You want to open up that radius, maximize that rolling speed through the middle of the corner, and hopefully capitalize on the back half and really start to accelerate towards them into another passing opportunity.
Heading through Fangio, she drops back just a hair, maybe trying to regroup, figure out how she wants to attack this. Him taking the inside line does make it difficult, but there are opportunities. But Jens Hansen doing everything he needs to do. Can he take a back-to-back win? All this focus on can Unser make the pass. I think can Hansen keep the defense is the other flip of that coin. So far, doing a decent job, but I'm kind of surprised that he's been able to hold her back this long because he is so defensive.
I think that this is her strongest area of the racetrack. She has been so close going into the brake zone of what is turn number 15. And once again, Hansen all the way to the inside of the racetrack. She poked the nose out to the outside that last lap, but opts to follow more through the traditional racing line. But let me tell you what, the number 12 car really crowded himself on the entry to turn number 16. This might be the opportunity to use that slipstream.
Look at that, barely over a tenth of a second we can see on our tower on the left-hand side. She is so close this time, and she's always been strong in the brakes so far this race. Coming into the corner, as we watch from above, she's just not quite there. Nearly to his bumper, though, coming into the brake zone as they exit out of the final turn once again. Still 13 minutes plus a lap left to go.
Look at these two streak down the front straightaway, and once again, our leader opting to use more of the middle of the racetrack, just not providing any sort of crack in that armor whatsoever to that driver behind, and doing an excellent job. I did want to point out, though, as these two are battling, kind of that gap to third place has now started to stay stagnant. They were doing 1+ second faster than the rest of the field, but ever since they started battling, they're dead even, and actually Scalzo kind of closes it in every now and then.
You know, I kind of wondered as I looked at that a little bit earlier if Lonnie just kind of gave it a bit of time to follow Hansen so that they got some distance, because the fact that they have pulled out so far means they can battle this hard.
I think if I'm call it the coach, the team manager of Hansen, I'm getting on the radio and saying, you know, forget about your mirrors right now. Of course, you don't want to shut the door if she's making a move up to the inside, but look at your lap times, look at the performance that you're kind of missing out on that you are capable of doing. Sometimes you kind of need that little bit of a mental help out there to focus on the right things.
Down through Collier once again. Can see this is the part of the track that usually you'll see IndyCar testing on coming here in the off months as they have that support pits over there. And then usually those cars would turn off right about here, but we carry on where you see the famous 12 hours race up through Bishop and down into Jean Debienne. Also, critically, Lonnie Unser has held the fastest lap of this race for much of this race on top of it.
I think that's at a 2:09.4, and to kind of put it into perspective, that last lap time from both of these two cars, a 2:11.4. So 2 seconds is worth it in terms of lap time when they actually start to battle. If they're running single file, not worrying about it, they can go that 2 seconds faster.
Another look down the inside, but not able to make her way in there. Hansen coming around off of the second apex of Sunset Bend, right up against the wall as well. Maybe pushing a little bit harder now to try and pick up the pace and get away from Lonnie Unser. He'll lead the latest lap once again. Also worth noting, since we haven't mentioned it in a while, Scalzo, if you missed it, is our leader down in the Masters class. He's got really no pressure from Finnick, and honestly none from Checky, who is not in his class.
No, but we were watching that battle between Checky and Hoffman earlier. It hasn't gone anywhere on timing and scoring. It's only about half a second, maybe 3/4 of a second separating, call it the battle for the podium in the Cayman Pro-Am class.
Also, at some point in this race, we missed that Cody Knight moved his way into 4th in class up there in the Masters, so he's gotten by Joe Rizzo. Another little look coming down into turn 7 from Lonnie, but still not where she needs to be to take that apex away.
Some of these overhead shots that we're getting, I want to draw back to the point that you made probably a handful of laps ago. I think that Lonnie Unser is so strong in the brake zone. Look at her really close it in on Hansen, our leader, and then Jens really does a nice job to get on the throttle where he needs to right at apex to kind of maintain that gap from the corner exit down the next straightaway. But if I'm looking at a strength from our second place car, she is good on the brakes.
That could be helpful if she can get the right run at the right time, but we haven't quite seen it yet. Around the double apex of Bishop, very fast corner down into the braking of Jean Debienne. Again, a defensive move from Jens Hansen down into those swift set of corners. And I keep wondering if we're going to see that over-under there through Le Mans at some point. Oh, we got Schaefer off the track somewhere.
Yeah, try to figure out where exactly that is. That looks towards turn number 7 down there, and it's actually towards the inside of the corner. So a great job from that driver. You see that orange barrel right there. That means there's a safety cutout that you can pull the car. Evidently, probably some sort of mechanical problem. He realized it and did a great job not to affect anybody else's race.
We did have a penalty that we had missed earlier for Thomas Bigany. He served a drive-through on that one. I'm not sure if he's come back out, though. I think he may have parked it because I see him not showing scoring anymore. The 88's going to get going, so that's good to see. Maybe just a temporary issue that he wanted to get the car out of harm's way, and now that he's solved it, he's going to get moving once again.
So this battle for the front still rages on, and I actually think this is the closest that Unser's ever been coming through that turn 5 turn. Trying to roll on that throttle a little bit earlier than Hansen, but he does a nice job to call it, put her at stiff arm distance, right? Not able to make that move going down here into that turn 7 hairpin, despite how strong she is on that brake pedal.
And worth noting that they are once again pulling away from Scalzo. So the pace is picked back up, seemingly, and they're finding a little bit more out there. Wonder if Jens is doing, as you said, and just trying to focus a little bit more on what he's doing.
There's a lot going on inside of a race car when you're a race car driver, right? You got to manage the pace. You got to manage the tires. You got to manage the racecraft of people pressuring you, trying to get by it all time. So sometimes you just need the coach. Sometimes you just need the team manager to help you along and tell you what to focus on. And then as a driver, once you get that little bit of help, boom, there goes the performance again.
Yeah, I was checking on our map to see if we do have any other battles that are relatively close. This is definitely one of the best, but down there around 6th for the Masters, you've got Kerr, Greg Checky, Buffkin, Trollinger, all very, very close to one another. So mid-pack positions very much up for grabs in the Masters class.
You're right. We've been talking about Anna Checky, who's hanging on to that 3rd place in the Pro-Am class, but her father, Greg Checky, you're right, is right smack in that battle for, call it, 6th place in that Masters class. But we're coming up to about 6.5 minutes remaining, plus 1 lap for these leaders, this entire Cayman GT4 field. And the shot down the back straightaway is a great image to show you how far those front 2 have really pulled away.
Yeah, I mean, and there you go. We got another big gap down to, I think that might be Ammon in there before they finally see a few more cars start to return in. Wonder if we'll get a chance to see this battle a little bit farther back. Boy, it's a ways back there. Yeah, I think they should be coming through shortly. But we're going to cut away back to the battle for the lead once again. Half a second apart once more. Hansen finding himself some breathing space. He has lasted all the way from, I guess this started, about 21 minutes left to go or so, down to 6 minutes left now. And here we go. Is this the fight we were talking about earlier?
Yeah, this is exactly what we were talking about. This is going to involve, I believe, Kerr, Checky, Bufkin, might as well throw Trollinger and Osplunda in there as well. So call it about 5 cars coming through turn number 17 right here. About half a lap behind the leaders, but having a great race amongst themselves.
Kerr having to do a lot of defense. Actually is a doctor apparently, but doing a very good job holding off these drivers. Let's see if he can stay cool under pressure, as that was not the greatest of runs coming off of that corner. The 72 of Greg Checky trying to put him on the back foot. Nothing doing down into turn 3. They'll switch back into turn 5. Greg, interestingly, usually you would think it's the father that brought the daughter into the racing. No, his daughter was the one that got him to go racing.
It was pretty cool. We were talking to him yesterday, and I mean, Anna just has such a great personality. She's so excited to be at the racetrack. She's so excited to get in the race cars that Greg was like, okay, well, we can get here. And she's like, no, let's get here earlier. So you're right. It really is Anna driving this duo. And Greg, all he wants to do is beat his daughter out there.
Yeah. and likewise, vice versa. Anna doesn't want to let him have a lap faster than her. And they will often try to trade those fastest laps. They've had time out in WRL as well, but, I mean, considering both of their limited experience, I'm mighty impressed with the way they've been performing here in the Porsche Sprint Challenge.
I really like the variety of cars that they were driving, and it looks maybe like a little bit of a mistake out of Greg Checky there in that
An incident between the 91 and the 52 under review. That includes Kopczynski. I believe that's Ammon in the 91. But Ammon's still running. Kopczynski's in pit lane. We must have missed something that has sent him down there. I hope that's not damage that he's having to deal with. It'd be a shame to see him follow up the great race yesterday with a DNF here today, especially so close to the end.
Looks like Greg Checky once again slides wide this lap. He had that mistake in turn number 13, and a small mistake again here on Sunset Bend really allows that car of Bufkin behind to close in that gap into turn number 1. And I think that this is actually Trollinger trying to make a move as well, was diving to the inside there in the back of the train.
Bufkin not doing too shabby, considering he's new to the series, he's new to the team, and new to this class of car. There was a poke down the inside from Trollinger like you were talking about, or that actually might have been Osplund that we saw.
Yeah, and this is the 51 car now that we're riding on board with of Bufkin. This was the car that was really under attack that we were talking about. So directly out the rearview mirrors. You can see it out the right side rearview mirror. Look at the competitors starting to close it in on this straightaway.
Oh, good catch on that one. I didn't notice that we could actually see the rear view mirror there. If you look off to the far right-hand side of your screen, a perfect camera placement, whoever put that one in, as we get a view of what it's like here running around bumpy Sebring International.
And directly in front of Bufkin, crucially, Greg Checky is kind of, call it back up on the horse. He seems to be closing that gap back into Kerr directly in front of him. So doing what he needs to. And out front with, call it 2 minutes plus 1 lap, evidently, Jens Hansen has found the reins on his machine, has grown that gap back up to 1.5 seconds.
Wow, that's critical timing for him. So close to the end of the race, he's now got himself a much better buffer. Look at the distance. In fact, this might be the biggest distance we've seen this entire race.
A total flip-flop from what we saw in Cayman race number 1 yesterday. It was really Lonnie Unser putting the pressure on in the back half of the race, and today, it is Hansen that maybe felt the pressure in the beginning half, but then got focused forward, out the visor, out the windshield, and has just now started to drive away.
So close to going back-to-back to start off his 2025 season. Now up to 2.2 seconds. So whatever he was doing, he switched it around and now has got the speed. Critically for both of them, they're not phased by anybody behind. Scalzo now full 15 seconds. Alain has got himself plenty of buffer for that win. It's been looking like mostly a cruise to victory for him down in the Masters.
And talking to some of these drivers throughout the paddock, it really is the management throughout the entire race to make sure the car is performing just as it needs to at the end of the race, just as it was in the first couple laps of the race. So maybe what we saw out of Hansen, call it in the first 15, 20 minutes of this race, was really managing the performance of the car, and now it's kind of come alive.
Absolutely. I've often talked about just the use of the tires and making sure this is such a great teaching tool here at Porsche Sprint Challenge, just getting drivers to kind of dip their toes in and learn all the different aspects. And that's part of why they've also introduced the Endurance Challenge to also teach them about pit stops and things like that. As this being the first rung on the ladder, it's all about trying to get yourself a chance. Now, this is going to be close. I think we're going to be 2 to go.
I think we are, too. We're coming down about 10 seconds on the clock, but there goes the leader across start-finish line, and crucially, no white flag from the starter, so 2 laps to go here at Sebring.
Remember, this is plus 1 lap once the clock runs out. So, yeah, now we're hearing race control saying that they do indeed have 1 to go. Hansen up to about 1.2 seconds, fluctuating slightly from what we're seeing. Not sure if Lonnie is also trying to kick it up.
I think it was a bit of a seesaw that lap. There was one kind of corner that Hansen was really able to pull it out, but then the back half of the lap there, Lonnie Unser really kind of turned up the performance. Still about 1.2 seconds now, about 1.4 seconds live going into turn number 7 here. So all she's got to do is continue to keep him honest up there. Remember, any sort of mistake from our leader, she's right here.
Just keeping him in check for the remainder of this race, just in case something happens. Even a tiny slip-up from Jens could offer a chance, a little off somewhere on the track, a dip of the wheels with a poor exit out of a corner, and she could have a shot. Jens Hansen has been doing a masterful defense in this race to retain that lead up to this stage. There he is now coming up into Bishop, knowing he's got a lap and a half left to go.
Roll it through these very fast series of corners here. Got the low apex curb, so you can kind of take advantage of the track limits on both sides, and especially going into turn number 16, you can definitely take advantage of that left side there, try to square off the exit here of, call it the Le Mans corner in turn number 16, but does an excellent job to put the power down. I say that, but she's closed it in to about 3/4 of a second.
Whoa! Lots of action happening out here in the mid-pack. The 86 on the inside, and unfortunately has to slot back in behind, getting single file once again.
That was that battle that we checked on maybe a few laps ago between Checky, Bufkin, Kerr, Osplund. I mean, and if anything, the difference is Greg Checky is now the one out front leading that pack.
There is that white flag coming down the main straight, down to 0.8 of a second here for the lead. It's looking a little bit more like we saw prior on in this race. And they've got lap traffic we just saw poking at the side of the screen.
And remember, that was that 88 car that was pulled off the track a little bit earlier. That's why he's so far behind in terms of track position. But guess what? That's another variable that these leaders are going to have to deal with. You have to judge that closing rate. You've got maximum performance in your car. You're not sure about that car in front of you, but you still have to get around them safely.
Still has to catch up to him. He's not quite there yet. It depends on what kind of pace they have over Schaefer. So out of turn 7 once again, coming up into the braking of Cunningham here. Back at 0.9 of a second. Lonnie hasn't closed in yet this lap.
But look at her on the brakes. Oh my goodness, just that accordion effect. She has been so strong on that brake pedal all race long. She's just displayed it again going into turn number 10. There's that lap traffic going through Tower Turn right now. So, yeah, maybe not going to be a factor in this race, but certainly is sitting there.
Oh, when are they going to catch him, or are they going to catch them? Because we don't know for sure. He could be able to stay ahead and complete all the laps. They'll head up into Jean Debienne. They get ever closer. This could come down to what happens through Sunset Bend. We don't want to see this affected by traffic, but it is the nature of racing, and sometimes that can happen. He sees him coming, and he pulls off to the side. That is a great move by Schaefer.
Great sportsmanship. Even got on that left turn signal and said, hey, I'm going to stay over here to the right. You guys go left. I'm not even going to be a part of this at all.
It wasn't quite enough, it looks like, for Lonnie Unser this time, but still put on a great show and applied as much pressure as possible. As Jens Hansen goes back-to-back today, takes victory after victory in the first weekend for Porsche Sprint Challenge Cayman.
A phenomenal drive from the driver of the number 12, Jens Hansen, just managed the race out front all day long, just kind of like what we saw yesterday on top of that Cayman GT4 class. We still have Scalzo coming down the back straightaway right now, and he should be the winner of that Cayman's Masters class.
You can see his crew celebrating as he goes by. I hope we can go look at the 72 and 74 in that battle back around 10th overall. Greg Checky, Thomas Kerr, Gary Buffkin, all still fighting hard to the end of this race. It looks like our marching ants map is just a slew of numbers all clumped together.
Yeah, they're coming through turn 16 right now and out onto the back straightaway. I think crucially, Greg Checky was able to kind of start to run away from Kerr by about 1.1 seconds, but Buffkin right on the back of Kerr. Same thing with the 86.
This is going to be fascinating when they get to the line. More of our drivers coming across. Anichecki with another podium. Fennick and Ammon also managing to finish on the podium. Ammon, what a bounce back from yesterday from a DNF. Here's our group of cars across the line. All 5 of them probably about within a second or so.
What a phenomenal race. And yeah, it might not be for a podium position, but I guarantee you when all those drivers get out there and call it tech or impound, they're going to take their helmets off and be smiling, shaking everybody's hand and saying, oh my gosh, that was just so much fun.
Yeah, great racing between all of them. Glad to see we got a complete green flag run this time. First one of the weekend that we've not had an interruption of our 3 races we've done so far. Final 3 are going to be Proper, Tartaglione, and then Bonderson crossing the line here shortly. And that is our entire field able to wrap this one up. But only 18 finishers out of our 21 starters, unfortunately. A few did not manage to get to the checkered flag. But Jens Hansen is your winner. Lonnie Unser taking a second place. Alan Scalzo winning in the Masters, but a 3rd overall once again. And a Checky, another podium in the Pro-Am once again. Erica Hoffman, P4. Bill Fennick, a podium for him in Masters, with Dan Ammon wrapping up that Masters podium. Then 8th overall, you've got Cody Knight. 9th goes to Joe Rizzo, Greg Checky in P10. Outside of that top 10, you've got Thomas Kerr in 11th, Buffkin in 12th, Trollinger in 13th, Ospel in 14th, Proper 15th, Tartaglione in 16th, Bonderson 17th, and Schaefer a lap down in 18th. Kopczynski, Biggity, Craig, and Pelichowski DNFs today. We've got more action coming, so we're going to go down to the podium here in a moment for celebrations here in the Porsche Sprint Challenge North America Cayman class. Yes, now it's time for Podium Ceremonies here for Porsche's Sprint Challenge North America for the Cayman Series. We're going to start out with the Cayman Masters. In third today, in the number 91, it's Dan Emmett.
That's what it said. Okay.
Behind him, or ahead of him rather, finishing in second today, in the number 15, Bill Finney. Bill remembered which step he's on today. And our winner in the number 26, back-to-back victories for Alan Scalzo. Alan, impressive stuff. It's a great way to start the season. I mean, do you take into account this sort of momentum, or are you more of a race at a time kind of guy?
Race at a time, I guess.
Fair.
What? I did not. I'm not sure I understood your question.
Are you encouraged by having these great results early?
Of course. Yes, of course.
Gotcha. Sorry about that. Well, I mean, looking off to our next race, do you feel confident coming in? Because, like I said, you've got momentum on your side, you've got 2 wins, and you look like you were well clear of second place both times.
Yes, today was harder, but yeah, I'm confident for Sonoma. Last year we were pretty fast, so yeah, I'm pretty confident. But you know, we never have to take anything for granted. You know, still work to do, driving the best I can, best setup possible. So yeah, we never know. These guys will probably maybe be faster next races. So yeah, you never know.
I'm sure you got a target on your back. But our winner, once again, Alan Scalzo. Let's show off those trophies. And of course, let's swap the hats out real quick. Put the Yokohamas on. Hold up the hardware one more time. Now we get to truly celebrate by spraying some champagne. Your Cayman Masters podium. Let's give it up for him one more time.
Lightheaded.
This takes us to the Good Boy Vodka Fastest Lap Award. Today, in race 2, that goes to driver of the number 4, Lonnie Unser. Congratulations to Lonnie. Finally, it's time for our Cayman Pro-Am Podium. For race number 2, coming home in third, second day in a row, the number 27, Anna Checky. It was a hard push in the battle for the win. Coming home second today was the number 4, Lonnie Unser. He wondered if he could do it all over again. The answer was yes. Our winner was the number 12, Jens Hansen. Jens, I have to ask, after what we just saw,
Can you give us a class on defense? Because it seems like you had to pull out every trick in the book.
Oh, I definitely did. Lonnie is just such an incredible competitor. It was obvious where she was faster. There's definitely a reason why she got the fastest lap today. But I just got out a little bit and had to defend for about 50% of it. It was stressful, but we got it done, and kudos to Lonnie for putting up such a good fight.
You gave us some entertainment. What happened at the end that you managed to start to pull away? Were you just getting a better handle on things, or were you holding on to your tires until the end?
Honestly, I was just trying to be as consistent as possible. I think it might have been a mistake by Lonnie that gave me a little bit of a lucky edge there towards the end. But, you know, 2 laps later, she was right back on my bumper. So she's just such an incredible driver, and I'm looking forward to the season with her.
Well, lots of kudos between you. You can tell there's respect, but you get to celebrate the win today. That was Jens Hansen, our victor. Let's hold up those trophies. And the ever fun hat dance. Putting on the Yokohamas. Show off the hardware once again. Why don't we spray some champagne? Congratulations to our Cayman Pro-Am. More racing yet to come today. The GT3 Cup Series is up next.